I've always said that I wouldn't mind being haunted or being a ghost myself, and to anyone who wonders why, this movie is why. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're talking about Presence, directed by Steven Soderbergh, starring Lucy Liu, Chris Sulivan, Callina, Liang, Eddy, Maday, and West Mulholland. I was fairly excited for this movie because of Steven Soderbergh. He of course directed the original Ocean's trilogy and Contagion, but I mainly know him for his more offbeat movies like Unsane from 2018, which he shot entirely on an iPhone to a surprisingly effective degree. Those are the movies from him that I really do enjoy, the more smaller and experimental movies, if you will. This movie is definitely no different from that, with a great concept of the camera's point of view being that of the ghost that is haunting this family. Plus, I've heard some pretty good things about this movie from its festival run, so I was very happy to see the movie for myself and to say that I really did end up enjoying it. This, of course, will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't had a chance to see this film, go check it out. It's got a killer concept that I really dug, and I'm sure you will too. So, what is Presence about? Well, it essentially follows a family who move into a new home that is haunted by some presence. You see the family drama through the ghost POV as it observes and at times interferes with these characters' lives. And I think the most interesting thing about this movie is the style and the gimmick, if you will, with the way that this movie is shot. Soderbergh himself acts as the cinematographer for this film, utilizing a small Sony A7 camera on a gimbal to give us a peek into these characters' lives, but beyond that, it acts as a character in the film itself. There's personality to the way this presence observes this family, the moments it decides to pay attention, and also the moments it decides to look away. With it being shot on a smaller camera with a wide-angle lens, you get a similar effect to what he was able to capture with Unsane, which was shot on an iPhone. It feels claustrophobic, and he has the ability to move between rooms and characters and conversations so seamlessly. And to an aspiring filmmaker like myself, it generally feels accessible. It feels like a film that I could go out with a group of my friends and we can rent a small house for a couple of weeks, and I can use this camera that I'm using for this video now, which is quite similar to the one that he used making this movie, and I even have a gimbal. It really is inspiring to see a filmmaker with as much of a reputation as Soderbergh has direct something so small and creative like this for a very small budget. And something that I didn't really consider until I watched a Q&A about the making of this film is that the POV aspect of this movie makes it so every single scene has to be in one long take. There is no cuts until the scene is over, which gives an added challenge to everyone in front of and behind the camera, and I think this added to how much I enjoyed the characters inside of this film. I really liked everything with Chloe in this movie, who is the first to feel the presence of the ghost who lives inside of this house with them, in some really great sequences where she looks directly into the camera, feeling that she is being watched by something. There's a really great, blocking with this character, investigating the presence with the camera dodging her eyes, or moments where the ghost moves objects around her room to test the boundaries of how much it wants to interact with these new characters. You are told at one point that her best friend died recently from an apparent overdose, which I'll get into in a minute here, which, gives the ghost and Chloe something to bond over, a shared sense of loss and emptiness that makes Presence protective over her. And Chloe's parents have vastly different ways of how they want to parent their children, especially when it comes to Chloe's grief and Tyler's overconfidence and arrogance. Lucy Liu's character is so incredibly distant from her daughter, basically wanting to leave her be with her medication and her therapist, despite her father seeing that she may need more help from her family in order to work through this, impenetrable grief that she's dealing with. But every single decision that Liu's character makes is for the benefit of her son, who she clearly favors more, especially when it comes to one incredibly uncomfortable scene where she almost flirtatiously tells Tyler that he is essentially her favorite, and I'll get into more on that in a bit here. And then you have Tyler, who is essentially your classic jock in high school, whose arrogance leads him to clashing with his father quite a bit. He jokes about being involved in leaking a girl's private pictures at school. He accuses Chloe's attempts at saying there's a ghost inside their home as a way to get attention. He's honestly just the worst in so many ways, and it's his mother that feeds into this behavior. And one of my favorite moments with this character is one scene where he goes to apologize to his father, but it comes across as if he hasn't changed his view on Chloe's ongoing trauma, which Chris tells him that, there's a great man inside of him somewhere, and he's looking forward to seeing him one day, and it's absolutely crushing. Then you have Chris, who is a genuinely great father, trying his best in a struggling marriage and trying to bridge the gap between his children. He has so many great scenes talking with Chloe about her trauma and about how he believes her when it comes to the things that she can see that others don't. Even with this film's short runtime, I found myself really becoming invested in especially Chloe and the father's relationship in this movie, but honestly all these characters and their drama I was really interested in. And then there's Ryan, who enters the picture just to throw a wrench into everybody's plans, and he's a friend of Tyler's who becomes becomes interested in Chloe, and this guy was honestly so incredibly shady right from the very beginning. There are some sweet scenes between him and Chloe, but far many more weird moments, which is where the ghost's involvement comes more into play. For the first half of the movie, this ghost simply observes this family, listening in on conversations, occasionally being seen by Chloe or moving objects to get Chloe's attention. But once you as an audience get accustomed to the family drama, so does this presence, and it acts as you want it to, essentially, which I honestly really appreciated. When Tyler continues to berate Chloe about the ghost being inside the house, well, it decides to trash his room in front of the entire family, leading to one of the funniest cuts in the movie, going from inside the house to the ghost watching the family discuss what they just witnessed outside the house on the porch. And when it comes to the scene where Ryan is putting some substance into Chloe's juice, it knocks the glass onto the floor before she can drink it. I love that this presence feels like a character that you yourself as an audience control. It does mostly exactly what you are thinking or what you want it to do. It interferes at just the right moments. And again, the way Soderbergh decides to shoot this adds to this presence being a character within the film itself. And as we get into the third act, we see Ryan drug Tyler and Chloe while the parents are away, and the realization hits that Ryan is responsible for the death of Chloe's friends. He has been drugging girls at the school just to watch as they suffocate under a thin sheet of plastic wrap. He leads them to thinking that they are in control, when in reality, he's manipulating them into doing exactly what he wants, which is absolutely terrifying. He's actually a pretty decent villain of this story, and one that I was very much not expecting, especially when the haunting isn't the conflict in this haunted house movie. The ghost is one who's actually trying to save Chloe, which leads to an ending that I'm still a bit conflicted by. And this is where I really want to get your opinions on this film, because I'm not sure how audiences are going to react to this ending, for honestly a couple of reasons. I think, for one, some people may go into this movie wanting a scary haunted house movie, which this honestly really isn't. I was way less scared by this movie than I was interested in the characters and the style. Plus, the ghost isn't even the bad guy, so I wonder if people will be disappointed by that. But for me, I don't know if this ending is as clever as it thinks it is. At the midpoint of the movie, as most ghost stories do, a psychic is invited into the home to investigate if there is some presence inside the house. This is where she plants the idea in our mind that time may work differently for something, on another plane of existence, which instantly made me think that the ghost is not something that has always existed in this home, but that it may be one of the characters we've been, watching this entire time. And that's exactly the case with this movie. While Ryan is watching Chloe slowly suffocate, the ghost wakes up Tyler, and he goes running up the stairs in a really shaky cam sort of way and tackles him through the window, which was also foreshadowed by the psychic earlier in the film. And then it is revealed that Tyler was the presence the entire time once he dies falling out the window. And this is actually something that I've seen before in two different projects in the past, and I don't really want to spoil what those two projects are, especially since it is as much of a reveal in those, projects as it was inside of this movie. And it is a great idea, but it's something I've seen before, and, I do think that it was handled, at least the surprise of that moment was handled better in both of those other two projects, where those were genuinely great twists. This one was a bit too telegraphed and left me leaving the film a bit underwhelmed by the ending. There were also a couple of plot threads that were left unanswered by the ending. The struggling marriage between Lucy Liu and Chris Sullivan is set up in an intriguing way in a scene where Sullivan is talking to a lawyer, or I think it's a lawyer, about whether or not a spouse can be implicated in the crimes of their partner, which is never discussed again inside of this film. It's such an odd red herring for this movie to have, which just leaves you the question, what in the world was Lucy Liu's character up to with her job, and why did Chris decide to go along with it at the end where he goes on this business trip with her? Why was she so weird when it came to that scene with her and her son? Was that the illegal thing that she was up to? Which in that case, what? There's so many questions that I have about this, but I guess I'll always have those questions, along with all the many theories that I'm sure people will come up with in the coming weeks. But I will say that Lucy Liu's reaction to seeing Tyler in the mirror at the end of the film was quite good. I was genuinely emotional at that point, and it was also a great payoff to another red herring, in that being the mirror, which was set up as a 100-year-old antique, which immediately makes you think that this is why the ghost, resides inside of this home. But no, it was Tyler the whole time. So overall, I did really enjoy this film, and if you know me, you know that I'm okay with a movie playing with tropes of a genre as long as it is told in a unique and interesting way, or from a unique character perspective, and I think this movie works on both of those levels. And I also do really like the tone and humor Soderbergh was able to achieve with this film. It was genuinely unique, despite a bit of an underwhelming ending for me, but I don't think everyone will feel the same about that ending, especially for those who haven't seen those other two things that I mentioned in the past. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what those two things may be. I have reviewed them both in the past on my channel before, so leave your comment down below of what you think those two projects are. But those are just going to be my thoughts on Presence. I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I just reviewed Wolfman last week, which it seems like I was the only one who actually liked that film. And I also have a bunch of online Sundance films scheduled for next week, so keep an eye out on the channel for reviews on all of those in the next week ahead. So thanks everyone for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in my next one.